quick little video on how I manage 3 yarns simultaneously in a Colorwork pattern. I keep my main color on my right and my contrast colors on my left. My main color is a Wooly Knits yarn, 100% British wool. It's just a little bit scratchy, and it's definitely got some, I guess you could call stickiness as it sticks to other yarns. But it definitely has a little bit of, I guess they call it the prickle factor. It's just a little bit scratchy, but it's still soft. I've got 500-gram cones on my yarn station, and this I found on Etsy when I plugged in yarn management station, I believe it was, and it popped up. It's from a company that makes crochet hooks from real wood. This is mahogany, if I'm not mistaken. But it comes in pieces, this, and then this shelf here. This is for crochet hooks that they make, and they're pretty big, carved in different shapes, so that's what these holes are, for the crochet hooks to fall into. But these 3 pieces come in their own little packages in a giant box with this platform and these 2 rods, and you just simply drill, I'm sorry, you don't drill, but you screw these pieces together with the screws. You use that hexagon wrench to screw everything in, and all of that comes with it. These rods just slide up and down all the way, right in there, top and bottom, and you just slide your yarn right onto it. So I put my blue here, and then I'm using 2 fingering weights. Everything is fingering weight held double. I keep these over here in a knitting bag. So I just try to keep everything as separate as possible when I'm knitting multiple colors. And I'll knit, again, like I said, my contrast colors I keep on my left, and I keep my main color on the right. And I also use my Norwegian thimble to hold these on my hand. I've tried knitting where it's just on my finger and it doesn't give me the spacing that I want so I can grab the yarn easily, so I use the thimble. So I will go ahead and feed my yarn through my hand. I'll put my thimble on and then go ahead and load it up, so to speak. And how I do that, I'll take this white, push it from under so that it slides in between the loop. And it would help if I caught both strands of yarn. Slide it up in between, and it's plopped right in there. This side is a little bit more tricky. Some people like to crisscross these. I have found when it crisscrosses, yeah, you get the nice spacing. It just ends up twisting more, at least for me. So I always keep it, so I just loop through and it just hangs and sits right inside that loop that way. And then I'll pull it through. I know it does tend to come out when I do that. But that's just a matter of me holding my fingers together to try to keep that tension. in there, and I'll pull this down so it stays down in the loop. There we go, and I like to keep everything as close to the needles as I can, because otherwise this right side will get loose, and then I just have to tighten everything back up again on my hand. So when I'm holding all my yarn like this, where the blue is coming straight from the back, my main color's English style on this side with my hand, and my yarn for the white is coming off the left. Nothing back here tends to tangle too much, but once I start pulling through my thumb to really tighten things up, then it might. There we go. But this is how I do yarn management with 3 different colors. So let's see. And this is called blocking, when you just give your stitches a little bit of a tug and you stretch out the floats in the back, not too much, but you stretch your stitches so that everything stays pretty even. I know when you block your knitting, usually it's put it in a wool wash and you block it, stretch it, pin it down, and it holds its shape. But there is another blocking, which is where you're pulling while you're on your needles and knitting. And this in here gets loose sometimes, as I mentioned, so I just pull it and just tighten. If anyone likes little stitch markers, I get all of my stitch markers, or at least 90% of my stitch markers, from Simply Serving HK. You can find Lindsay, who's the shop owner, on Instagram and Etsy. She makes the best stitch markers. And these things are huge. So for the amount of money that she charges, which is about somewhere between, the lowest I think is about $7 up to maybe $15 or $16, where they're handmade stitch markers for this size, and this is about an inch, yeah, inch tall. It's, for me personally, it's worth the money, because I've bought some stitch markers for the same price where they're only that big. To me, that's not worth it. I want a good size stitch marker for the amount of money that I pay. Let me change my row. Okay. Now, if I were to need to, if I needed to drop this yarn because of the row, which I've had to do in the below rows, I would just drop it and leave it and continue with these, and by the time I get back around and I need to pick this up for the next round, it's right there and it will automatically create its own float to catch. Otherwise, if I don't need this color until a few rows further up, I would just simply cut this and weave it in as I go, or I can just let it hang. Right now I'm just letting them hang, and then I'll weave them in once I'm done. But that's another way to manage yarn at the end of rows. But as you can see, when I'm working 3 yarns, there's no tangling. Everything is staying nice and even. And if anything loosens up, again, I'll just give it a gentle pull on my hand. There. There we go. And see, even having it wrapped, the blue stays on its own and the white's still filtering under my hand. The brown always stays out of the way. So I like having basically 3 different stations, so I can keep everything from twisting around like crazy. I think because of the way my tension is on my hand, that's why this does not stay super tight. So I just pull, hook it, and you can see how I'm pulling. So it's not a big deal, at least for me. It's not a big deal for me. But it takes practice to hold it the way that is most comfortable for yourself. As you can see, there's still no tangling. The blue is over there neatly. The white is still here on the left. The brown never gets tangled. And even here, as it goes through my hand, let's see if I can flip it. Yeah, you can see everything stays straight. So yarn management with multiple colors is definitely a doable thing. It's just a matter of practice. But that's how I keep my yarn management for multiple colors at once, keeping everything in separate stations, and definitely keeping to my Norwegian thimble. And if anyone has interest in this, you can find these on Amazon, a couple dollars. Just be mindful, because no one ever told me when I was looking at these things, these edges are really sharp. So just be careful about if they rub up against your skin, because they can give you not a bad cut, but they can scratch for sure. So just be careful of that. This is real metal, and if I have fake metal on my hands or my ears, my skin will turn green like Oscar the Grouch in Sesame Street. Not fun. So this is real silver, real metal. So if you do have metal allergies, keep that in mind. It is lightweight, it's not heavy, it's not super tight. They come in, I've seen 2 sizes, this Norwegian thimble. You can usually find one size, which is this one, which is, I think 3, my finger's an inch, it's about an inch wide. Usually I find these in craft stores, this particular size. The larger size I've not seen in a craft store. There's one that's a little bit, just a little bit slightly larger than this size. That's on Amazon, and sometimes you can get both of these in one pack. And again, they're only a couple of dollars. It's less than $10 for sure. Anywhere between $6 and $8 with shipping. And you can usually get them in a pack of 1 or a pack of 2 with each size. That way you can test it. The larger size would end up fitting over my thumb. So just to give you an idea. But yeah, that's 100% real metal, and it does have give. It won't pull out too much. Unless you want to take a pair of pliers to fiddle with this thing, it's not going to change its shape. But you can kind of squeeze it to make it fit your finger if you need to. There are other thimbles. Clover makes plastic ones. I have one of those as well. I'm not a fan of it. Those have anywhere between 2 to, I believe, 5 slots on it for yarn management, for color work. I just haven't found that I like using that one. I have it as a just in case, but I don't use it. I always stick to my metal Norwegian. But yeah, that's how I manage multiple colors.